Hello. Everyone take a deep breath. What a room. We have a great filled room. It's fantastic. My name is Andreas Stavropoulos. I'm a VC in the States, but I also wear a couple of hats with public service and nonprofit in Greece. So it's my great pleasure to have a fantastic panel today to talk about the transformative power of artificial intelligence. We're going to do a very quick introduction. We have Irina Obushtarova, co-founder and CEO of the Recursive. We have Victor Trokoudes, CEO and founder of Plum Fintech. We have Michalis Petychakis, who's a co-founder and CTO of Orfium. We have the man whose hair needs no introduction, Kostis Daskalakis, celebrity professor from MIT and president of our National Committee for Artificial Intelligence, which is an advisory committee to the Prime Minister. We have Elias Vyzas from EY Greece, head of consulting, but also responsible for artificial intelligence strategy for 30 countries. And then, last but not least, we have Nikhil Arora, the CEO of Epignosis, that just took over recently. Epignosis is one of the Greek startups that's been a fantastic success. So great to have you on board. It's great for the ecosystem. We're looking forward to hear everybody's comments. And with all that, because we don't have a lot of time, we're going to jump straight into questions. Try to make it, how do we say, interesting, so we have something to debate about. So starting, Irina, with you, right? Well, let me actually make a quick intro first. This is a panel about the transformative power of AI. Transformative means one that has the power to have great impact. But that is not a normative statement. It doesn't say if it's good or bad. It just says it has lots of power. So you talk to a lot of startup founders. You talk to a lot of tech people. You know, what's going on? Is this just the flavor of the day? Why is there so much excitement about AI amongst the tech community?
Thank you very much. Well, I have to say that I'm in a very special bubble because most of us are very optimistic about the impact that AI is going to bring with it. Now, it has a transformative power because I think we're looking at ubiquitous adoption of AI technologies, and it's going to be adopted across many sectors in the industry. Finance, we have here. Education, we have healthcare, we have transportation, and many more, which in turn is going to have an effect in our everyday life. It's going to affect each of us. And it's going to require a shift in our mindset of how do we operate in this economy, and in turn also in the society. Now, why this is exciting? I think we can actually compare it to the dot-com boom, where we saw all of a sudden huge advancements in technology. And in this case, when it comes to AI, we're talking about machine learning, computer vision, we're speaking about robotics, but it doesn't stay in the realm of technology. It actually affects also the new business models, it affects the services that we're going to use, it affects the products that we're going to use, and it's going to redefine the economy. So we can safely speak about the next economy that we're going to experience in the next decades. And it's advancing very fast, at a very high pace. Now, what is interesting about it is that the leaders of this next economy are still to be defined. Just like we had a shift in the dot-com boom, but later on also in the Web 2.0, we're going to have a big change in the most valuable companies that we see in the rankings. And who are going to be the next ones, we don't know yet. Like OpenAI is now challenging the place of Alphabet, yeah? So in this scenario, actually in this period, investors and founders can make very bold bets on we're going to be the next leaders, and we're going to finance it, and we're going to build them. And this will bring, of course, so we are speaking about the revenue gains in the numbers of trillions of dollars over the next decade. So there is a lot to be made in profit. There is going to be also societal impact on the whole thing. Now, what is important for me to say here, because we're in Central and Eastern Europe, I think there is an opportunity that we must seize. AI has an equalizing effect between the economies, because if smaller countries like ours, here in Greece, but also I'm from Bulgaria, Romania, and so on and so forth, they had a shortage in terms of human capital. AI solves this problem. So if we make actually the right decisions and the right investments and incentivize AI and innovation and research, we can compete with the big ones. And I think, yeah, here we will probably also need the will of the political leaders, so that was important for me to say now.
Let me pick up from there, because you mentioned a couple of things in terms of how it was similar to the dot-com boom. One is always that the promise of a technology is always, and, you know, being optimists, technology founders, in case you guys didn't know, or VCs, tend to be optimistic. You don't find a lot of pessimistic founders or VCs. It's a very difficult job if you're a pessimist. But typically we're optimistic about the speed of adoption, right? And some of the areas you talked about, like democratizing access to skills and talent, is really, Nikhil, what your company does. You guys have 22 million, Epignosis has over 22 million users of your learning and talent platform. And my understanding is part of the challenge for you is to leverage some of these technologies to be able to basically make learning and talent building better. Just picking up from that. How do you guys do it? What are you excited about? What are you worried about?
So, you know, if I paint the context of the workplace today, it's a very complicated space in the workplace ecosystem, because if you think about today, you have people who work remote, people who work hybrid, and people who work on-site. On top of that, 90% of the companies today have dependency on external workers. And when I say external workers, in the past, most of the companies had maybe 5 to 10% freelancers or contractors. Today, that number is 30%. And the World Economic Forum predicts that 50% of employees will need reskilling by 2025, right? So that's an astronomical number. What does it mean, from our industry and opportunity with AI? Let me kind of share a very simple example, right? Think about if you're a company today and you come up with a work project. Now, with the power of AI, with one click of a button, that will populate what skills you need. What is the current status of those skills within your organization internally? What do you need externally? How fast can you train them? What is it going to cost? And the really, timeline to completion. Now, this was taking months or years before. Now, in one day, you can get that done, right? So what AI can do is make the employee learning personalized, flexible, real-time performance management, and most importantly, it democratizes, right? We serve small businesses, so in today's world, there are about 8 billion people, out of which 3.4 billion people are employed. Guess how many of them are employed by large enterprises? Less than 5%. Where are the rest of the people? Freelancers, individual contractors, SMEs, MSMEs. And with AI, the impact it can have to, have them learn so fast. So, the impact on GDP is projected to be 9 to 10%, which is $8.8 trillion. So I think the only watch out controversially on AI is to make sure that the soft skill versus hard skill debate is managed well, because it's not going to take away the soft skilling, the human centricity. What it'll do is that if people don't embrace the learning fast, that some people will not be able to get on that train.
So we talked about the professional side, talent building, the promises, democratization, which is a theme we're going to come back to. But taking it, Victor, more to the everyday, the impact to everyday people. I mean, Plum is a fintech startup that tries to basically help people manage their money better, right? Do you see the power of AI in being able to actually get sort of diffused into everyday value for citizens as a whole by using this technology?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a founder, so I'm super optimistic. But I also think that in our sector, it really can be transformative, right? When we started Plum, it's a savings and investment app. We started it in 2017. We actually started as a chatbot on Facebook Messenger because we believed in order for people to do better with their money, I call it the negative human inertia, that they don't take action with regard to the money, and they need automation. But they also need another thing. They need like a conversational interface, because we're like a conversational species, to have a discussion, feel comfortable about their money, understand what's going on, and make committal decisions, right? So we believe that there was a regulatory change a few years ago across Europe that is called PSD2, which allowed people, forced banks to open up their API so anyone could connect their bank account and get all of the transactional data and give it to whoever they wanted for use case, right? So people at Plum connect their bank account, we can see their income and expenses, and with that we automatically help them save. Now with LLM models, we can use that information, understand through a conversation interface with the user or even voice, right, which is coming out, what are their intents, what are their goals, what do they want to achieve, and coach them through this interaction to achieve their goals, right? So I guess for me it's transformative because I think no one will have the excuse that they don't know what to do with their money, because at your fingertips you'll be able to connect your bank account, get that information, and have a conversation with regards to your future. So yeah, we're starting to build a chatbot function again that will allow people across the UK and Europe to have this conversation. Right? So for us, it's like super interesting.
So far, we've been talking amongst sort of optimistic startup technology kind of people and founders and VCs, switching over more to the large company domain, Ilya. So you are you're a consultant. You try to help the larger companies take advantage of the power of AI. I thought you were going to say I'm the pessimistic. No, I wouldn't say pessimist because, you know, if you're heading AI strategy for 30 countries, you better be optimistic. I don't know. But you know, what would be the one or two things that you guys give as EY, that you give as pieces of advice to large companies about how they can really take advantage, not theoretical in the future, 20 years, but like here and now? What's the one or two things they should be doing right now?
So just a couple of minor points.
Speak to the mic, Elias.
Yeah, sorry. In terms of the dot-com boom, I think that the main difference is that the risks were more linear, or at least that's what we feel now about back then, while what we fear now about AI is much less linear and more non-linear risks, like from deepfake, cyber, or AI taking over, or whatever. They sound like non-linear risks. So I think this is a big difference versus the dot-com boom. And about the soft and the hard, I'm going to come back because I think this is very relevant. So, thanks for inviting me. And I've been mandated 10 years ago to build a center of excellence for data and AI, and now it's 300 people, and we work globally. So, I'm bringing the experience we have through working with clients mainly in Greece and Europe, but also a bit in the US. We start with the we tell them that you shouldn't wait. So it's the if and the how. So in the if we say you should. You shouldn't wait until things get clear, because I don't think they're going to get clear anytime soon. And you may lose without even trying. You may fail without even trying. And then we also say that AI has been around for quite a while. Yes, generative AI is something new or relatively new. But AI has been around. We have been working with you to do forecasting models and do customer segmentation, next best action, and logistics optimization and whatever. And obviously, Gen AI can do new things, plus it can improve things that were already being done. So while before you could do the old models, let's say, in some ways, now adding information that you get from media or news sites or social media or whatever, you can improve your forecasting, you can improve your optimization models. And then we move into the how. So the if is yes, you should move fast, and you shouldn't wait. The how has a hard element and a soft element. The hard element is people say, what are the use cases? It's crazy how people are focused on use cases. And yes, there's a use case discussion in the hard side of things, but there's also a models discussion. What are the models that support those use cases? Then there's a platforms discussion. How should I build this thing infrastructurally in order to be able to support that at production level? And then there's a data element. How do I have AI-ready data, clean, structured, not structured, sorry, I mean, in a way that I can trust them to build models, right? And then there's how do I bring the data from the sources in? And then there's a last thing that says, what are the sensors or the places where I gather the inputs that I then transfer, fix, using AI platforms, and do the models to build the use cases. So this is the hard side of things. And different clients may need help in different parts of this stack. In the soft element, there is, in the soft side of things, there's things like, how do I change my business model? You know, because how do I disrupt myself? There's where should I invest? There's how can I measure the return on investment in order to convince my board to invest? It's always harder in established organizations. There's elements around talent. What kind of talent do I need? Because you know, we tell them everybody in the future is going to be AI users. Not that they're not already, but what I'm saying is they're going to be at a massive level AI users, and some of them are also going to be AI experts. So what do I need to do about talent? Hiring, training, empowering talent. How do I convince people to adopt this rather than fight it? So change management, adoption. And finally, obviously, things around regulation like the EU AI Act and GDPR and how this apply to the new versions of AI, and things around overall responsible AI and ethical AI. So these are the things that we try to tell our clients, that it's not one thing, it's not the use case or it's not the EU AI Act, it's a whole stack of things that you need to consider, irrespective of how much you're going to focus on each one of them. You need to have those things in mind when you approach AI.
I had said one or two things.
Well, it was soft and hard.
Oh, that's good. Very good. Soft and hard. It sounds difficult, the way you describe it, right? A whole bunch of things on the one and the other side. It's no surprise that the incumbents, instead of having an advantage, end up having a disadvantage when you have a paradigm shift, right? That's why it's very difficult for the leaders of every era to be the same when you have disruptive shifts. That's why if you look at who were considered to be the leaders in mobile telephony, and it was companies like Nokia and Ericsson and all that, it's like, and then all of a sudden there's Apple and Google, and where are the others now? Gone, right? And then Microsoft itself, how it reinvented itself with the cloud, it sort of missed the window there for a while and allowed companies like Google to come to the forefront. And of course now with AI, they're getting a chance to leapfrog again. Anyway, very interesting. Moving from the corporate realm to society at large now. Now we're getting to the more kind of deeper philosophical elements now. Kosti, you are obviously a famous researcher, a professor. You deal with education. You have your own students. You're advising the government on issues like that. What's for real? What this idea of democratizing access and using AI as a force for good? What are the one or two things that you're paying attention to in terms of what do you think is really for real now versus wishful thinking? And what are some of the other thoughts that are in your mind?
Yeah, so I'm not the pessimistic guy, but let's say I'm the objective guy. Okay, so one good thing about Gen AI is that it's fascinating people so much as we all talk about AI. So that's great. It's good groundwork to accept that there is a change that is coming, and you know, we all have to place our bets to adopt this technology. Now, this revolution has been happening in you know, different phases, but you know, let's say the recent revolution in AI has been happening for 15 years or so, and the character of it is that it has unlocked data modalities, our ability to understand semantically data modalities that were not accessible to us before, like images, speech, natural language, molecules, proteins, etc. So when you unlock new data modalities, now you have the opportunity to extract value that is there in the data that you have, you know, that you haven't exploited before. So there is definitely a real opportunity here. Okay, so we have the tools to unlock meaning and value from this data. Now, this data, of course, was created by all of us. It's the footprint we all have left to the internet. There is a ton of data maintained in databases of, you know, companies or states. And finally, the tools that we use to extract information from this data is coming from a lot of research that has happened in universities. So I think we should all reap the benefits of that progress that has been taking place. And to do so, we, you know, we have to think about a lot of things. One is access to models that are built on data that is out there, using science that has been produced by universities. Of course, you know, like creating these powerful models requires a lot of compute, therefore investment by companies. So, but in the end of the day, we have to figure out a framework for how to share that value. right? So we all should be able to build on those tools that have extracted this their value in large part because of the information we all have provided and shared, knowingly or not. So on the other side of the spectrum, we need to create talent. We have to develop talent that will build on those tools, and you know, the AI literacy has to spread in the whole population, because we all have to decide how to govern the applications of AI. Now, to answer your question about what is real or not, I think I've partially answered it. There is real value by combining the new tools with the vast amounts of data that is out there. But of course, you know, we haven't solved AI, right? I mean, so there are many frontiers that have been, that are there to explore. And, you know, as a scientist, I like breaking things and understanding the limits of the current technology. So an important frontier, the way I look at it, is as we deploy AI models more and more in our lives and societies and economies, what's going to happen is that these AI models are going to be interacting with each other in a complicated ecosystem, interacting with each other and interacting with humans. So therefore, these models are not just predictive models that, you know, are given an input and, you know, solve a task that has value in and of itself, but they become agents. And when AI, you know, becomes agentic, we need to be prepared about the impact of what happens when two agents, either, you know, two AI agents or more AI agents, and, you know, or AI agents and humans, are co-present, making decisions and taking actions in the same ecosystem. Okay, and that technology we do not have. We are not prepared for a future where agents interact with each other. All right, so that's the future we would definitely have to build, you know, before, you know, vastly deploying, you know, this tech. You know, we have to be very careful, both in terms of, you know, providing regulatory frameworks for how things are going to get deployed, but also, you know, building the science to prepare ourselves for that future.
This is launching us into a direction which I want all of us to go to in the 5 minutes we're going to have left after Michael, or more, depends. But basically sticking with the societal themes. So Orfium, right, you're the founder and CTO of Orfium. Orfium is a company that helps measure and apportion and attribute the value to human creativity at the end of the day. In an age of generative AI, how does the value of creativity change? How do we think about the value of creativity? And can algorithms be creative? And if so, who should benefit and how? How do you think about those kinds of societal issues?
So, obviously, in the age of AI, we have a lot of questions about transparency, ownership, accountability, and actually the whole industry is talking about this. Like, okay, we produce a new track based on AI, who owns that, who needs to get paid? We don't have an answer yet. Like, the whole industry is working on that. But as Orfium, we are there to support artists and their creativity and make a living out of their creativity. So we strongly believe in, like, how a song, for example, is getting created and the feelings behind it. So tools like AI and Gen AI, they're amazing, and as Professor Daskalakis mentioned, like, they're there to help people and collaborate with them. And we've seen that, like, the last decade, it's not a new thing where everybody is using those kind of tools. For example, we're using those kind of tools on a daily basis in collaboration with humans, and we see how the creativity sparks and how new ways of working together all of a sudden, like, you know, happens. We see and we measure what's going on in all the social media and all the platforms where we can listen to music, and we see that even though there's tons of new music produced by AI, 99.99%, you know, of the music that people use is human created. And most of it, like, I would say more than 90% was created like a decade ago or more, like the classic bands and classic music. So, I mean, this is how we see like the industry evolving. So kind of algorithms be creative, you know, they can be inspiring, they can be interesting, but not true creativity because they don't have the feelings. And I would just go and say one last thing. Like 25 years ago, everybody could have a personal computer, and there was, you know, a software where you could create your own designs. So at this point, everybody was saying, we won't need designers anymore. 25 years later, we have way more designers than ever. So this is what I believe is going to happen. So we're going to have more music, more movies, like we all consume content in social media. So we see way more content than ever before. So, you know, those tools are going to be co-creative with humans.
Okay, this is launching us into an interesting discussion, which I'd like the panel, all of us, to think and talk about, and we can go in rapid fire succession. But I need a quick intro. So I'm actually amazed by how many people in this room. This tells you how much interest there is in a topic. AI is not a new topic. AI has been around since the 50s. And there were a lot of promises of AI that never really materialized, right? So what's different now? We don't have to go into that. But we have to remember, ChatGPT was released to the world, what, November, December last 2022? Right? A little less than a year and a half ago, less than 18 months ago. And I remember the meeting where the first time people telling me, have you seen this thing? Google's dead. That was the way it was described. Now, Google's not going to be dead, but you know, the hyperbole behind it is emblematic of the fact that when change happens, sometimes there's threshold effects. The reason we named our firm Threshold is because sometimes, like pharma people will know, things may happen. Whenever you have exponential kind of changes, things may happen, looks like nothing's happened. It's basically, it rounds to zero until a certain threshold's reached. And when that threshold's reached, all of a sudden the switch is flipped. Think of things like, for example, if self-driving cars become good enough that they can materially and provably reduce accidents, how fast do you go from having them as an option to requiring that all public transportation be? Think of it as doctors. If the machine's better at diagnosis, at what point do you go from allowing it to requiring that only the machine is allowed to diagnose you? Changes like that, when you reach threshold effect, can be mind-boggling because as humans, we don't see exponential things in nature that much. So with all that long intro, meaning of life. How we're humans, we've been, you know, We've been thinking and associating meaning of life as our work. In the industrial society, right, you wake up 40 hours, 60 hours, 100 hours a week, meaning of life. Now you're going to have the robots and the machines. How do we have to rethink what we all do on this earth? And if you don't want to answer that, tell me about nature or work. That's fine too. Go ahead, Irina.
Maybe because last year I was part of Burning Man and I had like a glimpse of an alternative society.
Oh, yes. I had those too.
And because you were also speaking, about creativity, and I do believe also that true creativity stems from something different. It's not based on computing power. We as journalists, we also use ChatGPT. I admit it, yes. And that's an extension, but the content created by ChatGPT is only as good as the editor. So the person who is actually behind the whole idea. And I think this is going to apply for many creations that we're going to create with the help of generative AI. Now, in this regard, when I think about society, maybe I'm again optimistic and hopeful, but I think we will shift from there is this philosophy about the homo faber and the homo ludens. I really hope that we will turn into a society where we can play more, where we can explore more and create more. Because at the end, that's my personal belief, we do have our own experiences and we explore the world, but in the end, it is about the creation that we're going to make based on these experiences that we're making in life.
I'll say, I mean, you didn't prepare us for that question, so it's a big one. But I think, like for myself, and I don't know if I generalize, but I think humans are designed to want to like solve problems and improve things. So I think even if you have agents that are smarter than you in some degree, I think, well, humanity will be quite boring if you're not trying to improve or solve a problem. So I think we'll have to find some other problem, presumably, but I think if we lose that, then I think that's kind of like one, at least, of the core motivators for humans. So I don't know what we'll be doing if these agents are super smart, but I hope we'll continue to solve that. Please.
I look at it from, everybody as human wants to feel a sense of purpose and want to be inspired, right? And what enables that is learning. So while there is a lot of risks and there's a lot of kind of bad actor possibilities, I think what it's giving is accessibility and affordability to the learning around the world, and it's kind of breaking that wall of who can have access to learning and who cannot. And I think it connects back to purpose and inspiration, and I think that's the single motivator for humanity, I think.
So I think we can have lots of let's say, dystopian versions of that. I think all of that is wishful thinking in some ways. We hope that will be relevant. We hope that there will be work. We hope there will be, I buy, therefore I am. Maybe we're not even involved in buying our own clothes, right? So, anything you see, what means feeling? What is feelings and what is creating? It's a chemical reaction. So, okay, AI feels in a different way, but can also feel. It's a matter of definition of those things in some ways. For me, the big problem is, and because theoretically we are part of the education section, I think we really quickly need to move into changing the way we educate, right? Ourselves, our kids, but society as a whole, companies, their employees, etc. So as I said before, hire, train, empower, there's a part that says, how do I educate? Because education needs to change, it needs to be all the time, and it needs to be both on hard and on soft tasks, and I'm going to touch upon, we need to train, however much this is possible, nature versus nurture, on adaptability, versatility, and on resilience. And for me, it's difficult to train on versatility, because some people are less versatile than others, so therefore there's an advantage. But I think it's even harder to train on resilience. So you have some job, now you need to do it somehow differently because part of it is automated. After 2 months, I come again and I say you need to do something else. And then after 2 months, you lose your job and you need to learn something else to have a job. And this is the difficult part. How would you build resilience?
Resilience, I have an idea. It's Kobayashi Maru. We can talk offline about that. Kosti, you had a great point about distributions before.
Distributions, yeah. So, AI is going to help us, okay? So it's gonna increase our possibilities. It's going to be a tool. We have to decide, where this tool is better than us and how we can complement that tool, where we're better. I believe a lot in human in the loop. I think I agree with Elias that we need to be adaptable as technology is not monolithic, it's changing all the time, so we have to be adaptable. On creativity, I think what makes humans, definitely AI will help creativity. It already is helping a lot creatives. Gen AI is helping creatives. What makes humans unique is that they can choose, okay? So Gen AI is trained on data that we provided. So it's trained to produce in distribution stuff. If you tweak it a little bit, it can give you outliers in the distribution it has learned. The problem is that most of these outliers is garbage. And humans make a choice of, what in the frontiers of like this distribution is actually interesting. So humans make a choice. So humans give you Picasso a little bit out of the distribution, but there was a choice made. Gen AI cannot make a choice. Gen AI is trained on data that we give it. It can help us be creative because it can propose a bunch of things, but we have to make the choice of what is interesting. That we have not unlocked yet. I don't think it's replicable, making the choice.
And on that optimistic note, we're going to thank the panelists and thank you all for being with us today.